Hey folks, Mac T here, and welcome to the group here in my little video blog on the Ford Edge. I'm here to welcome you all in, and today we're starting out something interesting. I'll talk about the 8-speed transmission and what Ford is saying about it. Yes, this transmission is an 8F35, and lots to go over on that, because there's a few things that you guys are going to perk your eyes and ears up to and say, really? But a few things real quick. I have been collecting parts. I'm doing my front end rebuild on my Edge. I've got the Detroit Axle LCAs, and I also have the Moog LCAs. And I was looking at them the other day, and I'm going to make a video on it because there are some noticeable comparison differences between the two. So I'm going to point those out so that you can be a good consumer and buy what you think is going to work. And it goes all the way down to the type of ball joint, the welding, and how the parts are stamped and what they look like. They are not all equal. Okay, so I'll put a video out that comparing those. I got to go here shortly and go pick up my LCA bolts, because we all know we do replace the bolts when we replace the LCA. Lessons well learned in the past. Yes, when you apply a Sawzall to your LCA, you know you messed up somewhere. So, and they're done that. Anyway, don't want to do it again, so replace the bolts, folks. That way you don't end up with that mess. But anyway, got a lot of different things I'm going to do. I'm going to do the oil change. I'm going to put the Royal Purple HPS in my Edge today after I get her warmed up, and I will be sending off some oil samples. I do have 3 oil samples I'm going to be doing, and I'm sending off the Blaine's Farm and Fleet to get that tested. And then for $12 a quart, I bought this AMSOIL 520. That's probably one of the most expensive oils I've ever bought. And then we got the Peak. Okay, do the testing on that, and I'm going to start doing my oil testing in a new format. I am going to start showing the virgin sample and then the used sample and comparing them against themselves in the before and after. So look forward to that, so we can see what the oil looks like before it goes in your engine, and then after a 200-hour run in my car, we will show you what it looks like after 200 hours and do a comparison and see how did it hold up. What did it do? So I've never done that before, so look forward to that starting this coming year, maybe late this year, Christmas holiday. I might throw a couple out there, and we can start doing a comparison that way and seeing what's going on. Besides just a virgin sample, you'll get both worlds in there. You'll get the virgin sample and the after use sample compared against each other to see what it's doing in your engine and how it's working out. So by all means, get ready for that. Now, other things, I got a few other things I'm going to be doing. MACT Garage, I haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to move my oil comparisons over to MACT Garage YouTube channel for the sole fact that I think it's more appropriate in the garage rather than the Edge YouTube channel. The only problem is I don't get paid anything from YouTube when I do that. So if I do this move, I would really appreciate y'all if you would subscribe to that channel. Get me over 1,000. I'm almost at the number of views that I need. I just need subscribers, then I can monetize that channel. So if you haven't subscribed to MACT Garage YouTube channel, by all means please do so, because you know, I want to try to get the oil stuff over into that group, because I think it's more appropriate there than it is in the Ford Edge group, because it sort of covers everything in all Duratechs that are in all Fords, so it's more generalistic in nature in that aspect. So but I will still stick with all my Ford Edge repairs that I'm doing, so don't be shy on that one. But that's my shameless blog on that. But first of all, Ford has put out in their literature some information, so we're going to jump right into that 8F35 transmission and what it's doing for 2019 for your Edge. And I think you know, they did some improvements. They're trying to make it a lot better, but this has an active, you know, the biggest thing they're really touting right now is the 8-speed automatic transmission active transmission warm-up. And they go on to their stuff, how they engineered it for high quality and quiet operation. Well, we would hope so. But, you know, is it better than the old 6F50 slush box is what we're really wanting to know, right? So apparently they went and I don't know that they improved anything, but they have hardened the gears and made more of a precision fit for the gears. So tooling and manufacturing processes have probably tightened up a bit on that. They still use a die-cast aluminum housing, so I don't know what they're touting there. It hasn't really changed from that, but they say it reduces the noise on it. That will be determined here as we see these things hit the road. They have enhanced pump porting to help reduce transmission fluid pressure, ripple, and noise. Okay, so apparently they are trying to correct the slush box a little bit there and make it a little bit better and quieter by doing that. And it stands to reason. This is the first year for this transmission, so maybe they have applied some of the 6F50 weaknesses and tried to make it better. And with all things, you know, testing and engineering on that. They have went to the rotary gear shift to replace the shift knob. Well, and you know, you guys all know the lever and everything, so they got the rotary. You turn that's been around for a while. Not a big deal, but it is new for the Edge, so that's something else. Also has an active transmission warm-up system to it, and I'll cover that in here in a little bit more, what they got detailed in that. And it's pretty easy to follow, but again, it's all about getting that transmission up to the right temperature to operate accordingly. Aggressive first gear ratio for higher acceleration capability. Okay, so look forward to them to utilize not engine power but gearing to give you that pep in your step. Yep, they want to get you off the line quicker. So they've adjusted the gearing there to give you a quicker acceleration off the bat. It stands to reason they can do that because now they have what? 8 gears. Yes, count them. 8. I got the wrong finger up. 8 gears. Yeah, so they can adjust that first gear to do it and then let the rest pick it up. So, you know, 8 gears, they're going to adjust that ratio a bit and make it more aggressive there. Overdrive gears will help provide highway fuel economy. That's right. They probably put a little bit taller gear in there. Yeah, we're going to bump it up there to bring them engine RPMs down and try to achieve a little bit better gas mileage in the ultimate end, which means it'll downshift easier. Now this stands, you know, by doing this, it makes you wonder, how's it going to handle the hills? How long will it hang on to overdrive going up a hill, and how many shifts are we going to be doing? Right now, I have very few shifts with the 6F50 6-speed. It stays in overdrive pretty good, you know, depending on my speed and wind that I'm pushing against. It will or won't downshift. So the question remains now, in overall use in real world, how many times is this thing going to downshift from overdrive down to the various gears on hills at a cruising speed of, say, 75 mile an hour. So we'll find that out in the future. I haven't had much feedback on that yet, so we're going to wait and see how that works out. Ultra low viscosity transmission fluid helps contribute to the efficiency. Okay, yeah, let me talk about that in a minute here. We'll move on, but the ultimate one is going to get you. All-wheel drive models include steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. Yes! Tick, tick, tick. And off we go. All-wheel drive only, though, folks. Not the front-wheel drive. Not that many Ford Edges are front-wheel drive anymore. Most of them are all-wheel drive. And then, of course, we got a whole nother issue, PTU-wise, that they're redesigning and doing everything with, trying to make it last longer. Ultimately, here's the deal, folks. Now we're getting... Remember I said that they had that ultra-low viscosity? Yes. Now you got the first Ford Edge came out with Mercon V. Okay, Mercon V is the first one, first gen. and then they moved up to the LV for the 1.5 refresh, all the way up until, now they've been using Mercon LV. 2019 8F35 transmission uses Mercon ULV, ultra low viscosity fluid. Haven't seen it on the shelf yet, folks. Here's the catch. Ford says filled for life. That's right. You never have to change your transmission fluid. We know how that worked out with the PTU, don't we? Yeah, that worked out great, Ford. Yeah. Life fill. Not really, okay? So, you guys can take that with what you think it is. I'm going to say, no good, okay? Ultra low viscosity lifetime fluid. The fluid's thinner, folks. So what are we going to end up with? I don't know, but I do know one thing for sure. Ultra low viscosity fluid is not a lifetime fluid. It's not going to happen, okay? So Ford failed again. They're trying to say will help lower cost of ownership. Yeah, okay. We'll see how that one works out, folks. So right there, I'm going to tell you, Ford, you blew it. You blew it again. You're trying to sell something that ain't going to sell. Okay? People are going to have problems with this, and they're failing miserably in this. Why do they keep doing this is a question. So, that's my biggest thing. ULV fluid. What makes this fluid better than the LV? Nothing. They did nothing. They just lowered the viscosity. They didn't do anything to make this transmission last longer, folks. So maintenance is key. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. So we're going to go ahead and say, yeah, ULV fluid, not a chance. Now let's go over the active transmission warm-up. They have a system in there designed to decrease the amount of time it takes for the transmission fluid to reach peak operating temperature when the vehicle is started and where the heater performance is not affected. The heart of the system is the heat exchanger. They have a heat exchanger in there, and basically what it does is this heat exchanger wants to get the transmission fluid up to spec as fast as possible. The only caveat is if you're in a cold weather climate, then the heat exchanger runs the coolant that's warmed to the cabin to warm you up before it warms up the transmission. But its primary job is to try to figure that out and determine when to warm up the transmission. Now, they want to try to make sure that it operates at the best thing, and the heat exchanger utilizes heat from the engine, and they want to help minimize the temperature losses related to friction and viscosity as the fluid flows through the system, and avoid parasitic loss and all this stuff. To correct temperature to help ensure the transmission operates more efficiently. In other words, they want the transmission to get to operating temperature as quick as possible, which is above 85 degrees, I believe is what it is. The current transmission thermal bypass valve operates at 85 degrees. So we're going to assume that they have a thermal bypass valve in this yet. I don't know. I can't verify it. But essentially what that does is the heat created by the transmission running will not go through the cooler until the internal temperature of the transmission fluid in the transmission heats the thermal bypass valve up to over 85 degrees, in which time the thermal bypass valve will open, and the heat exchanger, of course, will probably be the same way. Once the heat exchanger reaches the operating temperature required to heat the cabin, then that heat exchanger will then open itself up to send the warm fluid to the transmission to help warm up the transmission to the temperature that it needs, thus then also maintaining a cooling coefficient with it so that it doesn't get too hot and it stays about the same temperature as your engine coolant temperature. Got it? So active transmission warm up is bypassed if the ambient temperature is colder and the engine temperature is needed for heater performance. Once the engine coolant temperature is warm enough to heat the vehicle, the system will open the warmer engine coolant to flow through the transmission fluid heat exchanger. Just what I said. Okay? That's what Ford is saying. Essentially what they're trying to do is say, hey, cold fluid takes more energy. Stands to reason. So when it's 25 below outside and you take your car and start it up, guess what? It's going to direct all the heat to your cabin to warm you up, and then once you are warmed up, then it will send the fluid, the coolant, to the transmission fluid to warm it up and try to accelerate that process. So it really comes down to how long does it take my engine to warm up to send heat in my cabin, then it can transport that heat and exchange it out to the ultra low viscosity fluid to warm it up so that it runs more efficiently. So the warmer the day, the faster the operation occurs. That's what it comes down to. So if it's a hot day and you're not needing heat and you're running the AC, then it stands to reason this exchanger will then direct that temperature and dramatically increase the temperature of the fluid quicker so that it becomes more efficient. So cold weather climates, not so much a good deal. You know, it's going to take longer because it's trying to warm you up. But ultimately, it does try to do that. And essentially, they're kind of sort of doing that now with the older generation 1.5. You know, especially with the transmission fluid thermal bypass valve, does almost the same thing, except for the fact it requires the transmission fluid itself to warm up. Got it? Here, what they've done is they've taken the coolant and added it to the mix to warm up the transmission fluid quicker. So this is a big change in that aspect. So ultimately, now the transmission fluid will be warmed up here. And here's one thing you got to stop and think, folks, for the new Edge. It used to be in the first generation, the coolant only cooled the engine. That was it. That's all it did. 1.5 generation, they started with the 2.0. They started running a little bit of coolant to cool off the turbos. Yeah, the EcoBoost. So some of the coolant was not only cooling the engine, but the turbo also, along with your oil. Now, for the 2.5 refresh, you know, the 2.0. Let me go back to that one. The 2.0 was then using coolant to cool the turbos, and it was also using coolant, and it has a second pump on it if you didn't know that. Second pump to cool those turbos, along with the oil cooling the turbos. And then they were experimenting with using, and are using, coolant to cool the PTU. Yes. So don't be surprised if you see that. So now they've added something else. Now, for the 2.5 refresh with the 8F35 transmission, coolant will cool the transmission and warm it up. Coolant will also cool the turbo. Coolant will also be working in some models to cool the PTU, and the coolant will also be being used to cool the engine. Now, we have four things using coolant to cool and warm up and everything else. This coolant is working its behind off trying to keep this engine running. You got coolant and plumbing going everywhere. Okay, so we're not necessarily making it easy, we're making it more complicated in the process, because now we have plumbing and extra pumps. So the 2.5 is going to have at least 2 water pumps on it. That's right, you're going to have the turbo water pump, and then you're going to have your engine water pump, and I guess that engine water pump is going to also have to now work double overtime to help run fluid through the transmission, also to help warm and cool it up depending on what's going on. So a lot of plumbing going on here, and a lot of different changes on this 2019 Ford Edge with this 8F35 transmission. But keep in mind, it's all meant to be, essentially fuel conservation. That's what it's all about, MPGs, and they're trying to get it up there. But if you guys really believe, you can post down in the comments below on my Facebook page here what you think of the new ULV process and its lifetime fluid. And if you want to make comments on that, you're going to have to join this group, MACTFORDEDGE, on Facebook. That's right. I do not have comments on YouTube. If you want to have conversations in a civil manner, join up on MACTFORDEDGE on Facebook, and you can get a hold of me there, and we can converse about what we believe and what we think is going on with these fluids. But I also do want to remind you all, join up on MACTGarage.com. Yes, go over to that website. All sorts of information on your Ford Edges of various model years. And we have forescan information, programming, we have manuals, we have oil tests that I do. We have parts for your edges that you can go to according to year and the type of parts that you need, and links to those and part numbers and everything else. It's your one-stop shop. So go and make sure you bookmark MACTGarage.com for all your parts needs and information on your edges. And also, what else we got? We got MACTGarage Facebook. Yes, join up on there. And I also have MACTGarage on YouTube. That's right. I keep telling you, join up on that YouTube channel. Help me grow it. I only got like 200 members, I think, subscribers right now. And there's thousands of you. So, click the subscribe button. Help me out. Help me grow that channel and get those oil testing analysis growing there too. And my fee at the floor today, I'm having a great day, and I want you to have a great day too. Band of One's got some great music for you. I may have some bonus footage of a few things that I've been working on and what I've been doing. And Mercy Grill's got a couple one-liners for you at the end.
Thank you for watching MACT's videos, and remember to like and subscribe. This is a Mercy Go production.